now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
Coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Caliger, and it's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on beautiful St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or visit my, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's for an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by our new 24-hour, 7-day-a-week TV channel. That's right. Check it out. Sign up today, JinikoUSA.com. You can catch it on Roku and all the other major streaming devices. They've upgraded because of all the, traffic. So now you got to add a code. Reseller code is Billy C. So sign up today and start watching the show 24/7. And it's not just this show. It's, some other things that we've done in the past, too. So I think you're going to like it. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part, of course, by my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching this show. That's right, while you're watching this very show. You can get a copy by visiting BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. If you want a signed copy, just drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. A bunch of stuff I wanted to talk about today, but in any event, we want to talk about the Canelo-Alvarez and the Daniel-Jacobs fight. Post-fight thoughts on that. As you know, we were live in Las Vegas for that fight. And if you didn't catch our show, it was really cool. You should go back and check it out because it was a good one. We had some great interviews with Oscar De La Hoya, as well as Sugar Ray Leonard, Ryan Garcia. Who else came by? Some others too. I got to meet Roberto Duran. I was talking to Adam Kauznaki at the end of the fight, the Canelo fight. But anyway, before we get started, I'd like to give our prayers and condolences to a couple of people in the sport of boxing. First and foremost, a good friend of mine, and everybody knows him, beloved Harold Letterman, passed away yesterday. It was announced during the fights. We're going to get to that, but my prayers and condolences go out to the Letterman family. I knew Harold personally. We traveled a couple of times together. Great guy, funny as hell, too. And, man, did he know his boxing. And also, Bert Cooper, Smokin' Bert Cooper, had passed away the day before. So our prayers and condolences go out to the friends and family of Bert Cooper. So everyone here in the Billy C. family really feeling it today for Harold Letterman and Bert Cooper. Coming up in a little bit, we'll be talking about the Canelo-Jacobs post-fight. We got the predictions, breakdowns and predictions for Deontay Wilder against Dominic Breazeale. That fight is taking place next week. I'll also give you my thoughts on the announcement that Manny Pacquiao is going to be taking on Keith Thurman, which is, it's a good fight, real good fight. I'm not sure why, he would be fighting him right now. I really didn't think that he should have taken that fight. I mean, it's just my thoughts. But in any event, we're going to try to get my man Sal on the phone and get his thoughts on.
Officer Sal.
Yeah, I got the wrong phone number here for Sal, so we'll have to wait a minute there. But in any event, some other things that took place this past weekend, which I'd like to talk about, are the fights that took place yesterday. We had some decent fights. That actually there was some great fights, in my opinion, that took place last night, and one of them was just bear with me here. I'm going to try to get Sal here on the line. But anyway, one of the fights yesterday, j-roc Williams against Jarrett Hurd. What an action-packed fight that was. So we will talk about that. And how about the robbery? Let me see if Sal's on the line. No, we're trying to get him. We'll see if he's on the line right now. I think he might be. Sal, are you there?
I am here, Billy C.
Sal, great to hear you. Listen, I know you watched, and you and I were communicating a lot. We want to talk about the Canelo-Jacobs fight. What was your thoughts on that fight, my man?
Well, I'll tell you what. It was, as we went through the details of round by round, through text and comments, and Billy, I'll tell you what. I think it's going to be a memorable fight years from now, because it's going to be the signature fight that Canelo is really coming into his own as a world beater and a beast. I mean, I got to give the guy his just due. You and I have witnessed his evolution from the time he lost his first fight against Floyd Mayweather. I'll tell you what, if you put those two in the ring today, Floyd doesn't make it past the sixth round.
No doubt. You don't see Floyd talking really about fighting anybody, to be honest with you.
No. But I'll tell you that. I wanted Daniel Jacobs to win. I might have been even a little biased in my scoring. But, at the end, I thought he was going to catch him with maybe a 2-3 punch combo that would really put the fight around. But it didn't happen. And I'll tell you what, because Canelo, as I said, he's not the same fighter you and I saw 6 years ago at the brewery pub in Florida when he fought Floyd. This guy has put the blinders on. He's evolved. He's grown. He's challenged himself. And he is exactly what you and I profess we want to see more of. A fighter that is challenging himself, a fighter that's improving. And, that's what I'm saying. Yes, I am a Canelo fan aside from Tainted Beef.
They were asking him about that. I was telling you it was a joke. Did you see anything? It was a joke that they asked him, and he was funny about it. Did you see any improvements with Canelo? Because when I had talked to Oscar De La Hoya, he told me that we were going to see a different Canelo in the ring. I didn't really see a different Canelo in the ring. I've seen, like you suggest, he's evolved into one of the top fighters, of course. I mean, he's been getting the accolades as one of the top fighters, but I think he's truly evolved into one. But to be honest with you, I've seen him evolve into a cautious fighter. He punches and lands shots in spurts. I would have liked to have seen him come out a little more aggressive. And then, like I talked to you, Sal, I thought Daniel Jacobs should have been a little more aggressive.
You are right on all accounts, my friend. And Daniel Jacobs, like I said, he looked like he was just a few explosive moments away from unleashing a three-punch combination that would have turned the fight around. He didn't pull that trigger for whatever reason. And Canelo was Canelo. I mean, he has the ability to kind of steal those last couple of rounds he needed, and he did so convincingly. With it, I guess his being somewhat pressure related and giving Jacobs all the pressure he could take at the time. Like I said, I just thought that Jacobs might come around with a 3-punch combination, explosive, and turn the fight around. It never happened. It looked like it could happen, but it wasn't in the quiver that night. But we'll see some great things from Jacobs, and we'll see some greater things from Canelo, I think.
I scored the fight 115-113, being live there. Two of the judges saw it the same. One had it 116-112. How did you score it, Sal?
I scored it 115-113, 116-112.
You scored it just like the judges, basically.
Well, I kind of did. I watched it over again, and I just looked at it, and like I said, it really, as biased as I could be for Daniel Jacobs, I just couldn't give him. I had a couple of rounds as draws, but I wound up giving them to I guess Canelo. And yeah, it was pretty much just like the judges saw.
I was leaning. I was hoping Daniel Jacobs would win, but I got to be honest with you, Sal. And it's no secret that I'm not a big fan of his. But I think that Danny Jacobs, I know he's a loyal guy, a God-fearing man. It's great with the relationship he has with his son. But I think it's time for him to get a new trainer. I don't think Andre Rozier is doing much for him. And quite frankly, on the undercard in that fight, Saddam Ali, which is he's also trained by Andre Rozier, once again, Andre Rozier almost got him killed. The fight should have been stopped. What's your thoughts on Daniel Jacobs possibly getting a different trainer?
I think he should, and I'll tell you why. Rozier, I give him credit, but you know what? Unfortunately, gone are the days when you'll see an Angelo Dundee in the corner saying, "Hey, man, you're blowing it, babe. You got to go out there and make some things happen." That's the kind of things that we need from trainers. You can't have a trainer say, "Okay, you got to do this. You got to do that. Stick him with the jab. Follow up here. Do this." Yes, that's great, but guess what? You need the kind of motivational trainer in the corner saying, "Hey, babe, you're blowing this fight. You can win these last 3 rounds. I want you to go out there and think about it. There is no tomorrow. You got to put it on now." You need a trainer's got to be a complete corner man you trust, you believe in, you have confidence in, and yes, you could look at a trainer. He points out what you need to do, but you also need a motivational kind of guy that's going to say, "Hey, this fight is not yours. You got to knock this guy out." And I really believe in that.
The thing is, Sal, is I said on a show previously that maybe I was being too hard on Rozier. The way he acts in the corner. I said, okay, maybe all the training is I've never witnessed a training session. Maybe all the training is taking place in the gym where it should be, and he just tries to keep his fighter, sticking to the game plan during the fight, which is a good thing. But what I see during the fights are no adjustments. I see this guy maintaining to a fault whatever the game plan is. I mean, it's always good to have a game plan, Sal. You know that. But when push comes to shove, you got to throw that game plan out the window sometimes and go to plan B or even plan C. There's where I think this guy is lacking.
You are, again, 100% right across the board. You go in, you know your opponent, you know the game plan you want to see happen. And if that doesn't work, you need a plan B. And if that doesn't work, you got to throw caution to the wind and just be a freaking animal and do what you got to do, because you're losing a fight. Like not to take movie into world and world into movie, like Apollo Creed said to Rocky on the beach. There is no tomorrow. It isn't. You're out there now. You're putting it all on the line, and you're living for the moment. And you got to do something to make things happen.
I couldn't agree with you more. Hey, before we let you go, did you catch any of the fights last night?
No, but I heard there was a slew of good fights and some upsets, some some good things that happened, and I'm going to catch him today maybe. Hey, you know what? I couldn't believe it, Billy C. You and I were talking a couple weeks ago about what the hell is Manny Pacquiao going to do. Well, look what he's going to do. He's going to fight. He's going to fight
Keith Thurman.
Keith Thurman.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. That's a good fight for him. I mean, there's not too many other fighters out there for him, but I think at the welterweight level, Manny Pacquiao has another good fight for him, and you know what? He beats Keith Thurman, so on. I think he'll put too much pressure on Thurman, and Thurman will fold.
Yeah, the point is, though, and we're going to talk about that later, but the point is that he doesn't have to fight Keith Thurman. I tell you something. This proves a lot in my. I had him anyway higher up on my all-time great list, even though he's not done yet, than Floyd Mayweather. And this is proof why. This is a guy that continues to seek out the toughest competition, something Floyd hasn't done in a decade. Well, by name, Floyd has, but Manny Pacquiao, to be honest with you, it's an extremely dangerous fight for him. Keith Thurman, as much as I feel he's, faded, he's still a young fighter. He's still got great boxing skill. He can move. It's going to be a tough fight for Manny Pacquiao, but Manny Pacquiao truly challenges himself, Sal.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you why. He challenges himself. Again, he's evolved as a complete fighter. I disagreed with his jumping the weight classes because he's only a small guy that tries to fight big, and I credit him for that. But like Clint Eastwood would say, a man's got to know his limitations. I think he's one of the greatest, and he challenges himself, and he's a world beater, just like some of the good fighters we have. So it's all good.
No doubt. Hey, Sal, we appreciate you taking time with us this morning, and hopefully we can get you on again next week. And you sound great today, Sal, and I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk later, brother.
Hey, Bray, I miss you. I miss you. I love you guys. I just want to say to the boxing community out there, I love you all. Thank you so much for keeping me in your prayers, thoughts, and well wishes. And I'm fighting the fight, and I'm going to knock this bastard out. The other thing is this. The boxing community has rallied so well behind me. Rod Riccardi has been really a great catalyst. He's had Michael Moore. He's had Ray Mercer, Bobby Ches. All these guys have called me on and on every week just to check on me. They all say they're in my corner, and I love them all for that. And I love you, Billy. I love all the boxing community out there. And, guys, keep on punching because that's how you win fights.
Don't let up, Sal. Don't let up.
Forget about it.
Sal, I'll talk to you later, brother.
All right. Take care, buddy. Have a good day.
You
Bye-bye.
too. It's my man, Sal Rocky Senecola. Sounding great. We're going to try and get his camera set up. But my man, Sal, definitely keep him in your thoughts and prayers. He's vowed to win this fight. And if anyone can, Sal certainly can. A couple of fight results from yesterday. Julian j-roc Williams beats Jarrett Hurd in a fantastic fight. I mean, we had a couple of great fights on last night. This one was nonstop action. At the end of the fight, two scores of 115-112. One judge had it 116-111 to give Williams the win. And a unified junior middleweight championship. Here's my thoughts. I think that Jarrett Hurd, no disrespect to him, but Jarrett Hurd is a fighter. It reminds me a lot of George Foreman's style, where he plods in and people land punches on him, and then all of a sudden he just destroys you in the second half of the fight. j-roc knew this and took advantage, took the first few rounds that were given to him, and they proved to be important. The other thing that I noticed in this fight was that Jarrett Hurd isn't invincible. Was rocked several times, was dropped in this fight by j-roc, and ultimately went on to lose this fight. I got to be honest with you, I was extremely nervous that they were going to rob Julian Williams in this fight. The PBC has a tendency to do that, as we saw with the undercard with Matt Korobov taking on Emmanuel Alim. I thought that Matt Korobov won this fight hands down. They announced the scores initially as what were they? 96-95. 97. I'm sorry. Yeah, one had it 96-95 and one had it 97-93. Both for Korobov. And the last judge had it even at 95-95. So initially, the fight was ruled a majority decision win for Matt Korobov. But wait, you remember, this is a PBC fight, and Alim is the PBC fighter. So they went back to the adding machine and found, oh no, the announcer made a mistake. He announced the score of 96-95 incorrectly. It was actually 95-95. Therefore, the fight was ruled a draw. Sickening, because even 96-95 was a bad score. Matt Korobov owned this fight. At the least, it was 97-93. And to tell you the truth, it could have been more one-sided than that. It was a total robbery, in my opinion. Matt Korobov beat Alim. Alim had nothing. He had slaps. He wasn't accurate with his punches. He took a lot of shots. The body work alone. Are these judges scoring body shots? Because I'm not so sure they are. But anyway, and also Mario Barrios and scored a second-round knockout over Juan Jose Velasco to improve to 24-0. Also, we had some other fights that took place that I don't seem to have in front of me, but they were good ones. I will tell you this: the one over on HBO, Miguel Berchant won again over Vargas, this time via a knockout. But back to the j-roc Williams fight. My thoughts on this was that Jarrett Hurd, I think first of all, he's the biggest junior middleweight. Every time I see him in the ring, I forget that he's a 154-pounder. Here's the thing. Let's be real about Jarrett Hurd. He really, if you look at his skill set, what did he do well? If you take out the fact that he takes punches and then throws a lot of punches, he doesn't slip any. He doesn't have really great footwork. He can cut the ring off because he's learned to corner his opponent. But j-roc did his research. j-roc did his homework. j-roc watched a lot of tape because what he did was beat Jarrett Hurd at his own game. Fought him inside. The uppercuts were landing. It's funny. They were talking about that Jarrett Hurd should be looking for uppercuts. They said that j-roc would be susceptible to uppercuts. And it was Williams who was landing the uppercuts. It was a fantastic fight. I loved that, and I loved the Berchant fight as well. They were both action-packed, and the Korobov fight was action-packed as well. No question about that. Just some other post-fight. We're going to get Dax and Alex on to talk a little more about the Canelo-Jacobs. It was a great event. Again, I wanted to thank Golden Boy and The Zone for having us, and, of course, MGM. It was a great card. There was some good fights on that card. If you didn't see it, John Ryder knocked out Miguel Agaway in dramatic fashion in the third round, 2 minutes and 12 seconds. What a great fight that was. A big upset also was in the fight with Saddam Ali. This is where I started saying to myself, Andre Rozier is just terrible, and he's going to get his fighters killed. Saddam Ali is not the same fighter. He needs to retire. This guy's lethargic in the ring. Something's not right. Takes way too many punches. No disrespect to Anthony Young. He came out and just laid it on Saddam Ali and stopped him at 2 minutes and 38 seconds of the third round. The fight that I felt was a robbery was Lamont Roach Jr. He actually won a decision to improve to 19-0-1 with 7 knockouts over the veteran Jonathan Oquendo, who dropped to 30 wins and 6 losses. I thought Oquendo won this fight. I thought he landed the cleaner punches and more of them. It would be interesting to see the punch stats, even though I don't really like to go by them. Would be interested to see it. But the fighter, Jojo Diaz, won, destroyed Freddie Fonseca. But the fight that really impressed me, and Dax was telling me the whole time, keep an eye on Virgil Ortiz, keep an eye on Virgil Ortiz, keep an eye on Virgil Ortiz. And I did. I kept an eye on him. And Dax was 100% right. 20 seconds into the third round, Virgil Ortiz knocked out Mauricio Herrera. Now, that people that don't know boxing would look at Mauricio Herrera's record, 24 wins, 8 losses going into this fight, and would say, oh, this is going to be nothing. That's not true. Herrera never gets beat up as bad. He was beaten up by Virgil Ortiz. Great fight for Virgil. I look forward to seeing more of him. We'll talk more about Danny Jacobs and Canelo. Also, some other things. I got a bunch of emails to read a little bit later. But Manny Pacquiao against Keith Thurman set for July 20th. Like I said, Manny Pacquiao doesn't have to fight Keith Thurman. What's left for Manny Pacquiao to prove? It's not like he's got to prove anything. The truth of the matter is he's done everything and then some in the sport of boxing. So, the truth of the matter is beating Keith Thurman. I don't think Keith Thurman is going to be able to handle his punching power from the angles at which he throws. Keith Thurman has got some pop himself, but in the last couple of fights he's been rocked, and can catch him. And I think Manny Pacquiao got a lot of experience chasing fighters around, specifically recently against Floyd Mayweather. I think that he will have to chase Keith Thurman down. Keith Thurman was never in a ring with him before, so the question will be, can Keith Thurman catch him, either coming in or counter-punching him if Manny doesn't get out of the way in time. I'm interested in this fight. I really am. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that. Listen, we're going to take a short break, and when I come back, we're scheduled to have Dax Khan join us. Don't go anywhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
We save a lot of money.
It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt, the innovative technology used to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
Similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace? Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Hey, don't forget about our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week television channel, the Billy C. Boxing Network. You can catch it on all the major streaming services like Roku, etc., etc. Just go to JinikoUSA.com and sign up. It's growing. So now they have a code you got to enter. Just enter Billy C for the reseller code when you sign up. So sign up today for the Billy C Boxing channel. Joining us right now is my man Dax Khan. Good morning, Dax.
Morning, Billy C.
How you doing?
I was doing good till I got up about 5 o'clock this morning due to the downpouring rain.
Yeah, we got some too. But it was nice yesterday. Hey, it was nice. It was in time for me to cut the lawn, which it's a drag. But all right, we got a lot to talk about, so let's get going. First and foremost, Canelo versus Jacobs. Post-fight thoughts. You had a week to let it sink in. What's your thoughts on the outcome of the fight? Did you see any pros from Canelo? Oscar had told us you're going to see a different Canelo. I'm not so sure we did. And what about Jacobs? I kind of think he needs to change his trainer, man. I mean, what's your whole thoughts?
I think the improvement with Canelo was his footwork. He was, he moved around more. He looked fast on his feet. That was the biggest improvement in him. Danny Jacobs, I think the fight was his to lose. When he did use his jab and he did let his hands go and land those combinations, he was successful, but he only seemed to do that in spurts. Those close rounds where both guys were doing not much, Canelo was the one who was setting the pace, actually. He was, had to fight at the tempo, which, suited him better, and that's why I think those close rounds went in his favor. Whoever's able to set the tempo and keep the fight, in how they want it to be. Of course, that's who you have to give the edge to. And I agree, Danny Jacobs might need to find himself a new trainer because there should have been, some sort of adjustment in that fight. There should have been, as you stated earlier, a plan B or a plan C, if needed, and it just didn't seem to happen.
You're right.
Even those times when Danny Jacobs, I believe, was the 8th round, he rocked Canelo. Maybe it didn't seem that way on the stream because I rewatched it, but when you're there and you see him when he landed them 2 big right hands, he rocked Canelo, and he didn't seem to follow up on that for whatever reason. So, I'm not really sure what the new Danny Jacobs is, was all about.
Do you think that he was, Danny Jacobs, that is, do you think he was fighting overly cautious? Because I agree with you. He did seem to land some solid punches on Canelo and never followed up. I mean, I said earlier he didn't go to a plan B, which he didn't, but he didn't follow up either. He didn't. It's almost like he didn't see what everyone else saw.
No, he did that with Sluecki and Derevchenko too. He didn't follow up when he had both those guys hurt.
You think he's just fighting too cautious, like he's trying to stick with the plan, stay calm? I mean, because, that's usually the line you hear from a trainer, stay calm, don't get over anxious, don't make a mistake. Do you think that he was trying to fight the perfect fight?
I think that could be. I just think he's become more of a boxer puncher, but he's lost the old Danny Jacobs that we used to see when he got a guy hurt. That Danny Jacobs made sure he stayed hurt. He didn't let anybody off the hook. I mentioned that the week before the fight on when we did our show, saying that we've seen that in both the Sawecki and the Derevchenko fights, and we even seen that in the Arias fight where Danny Jacobs was in control at the whole time. Not at any point in time did I remember Luis Arias coming on and hurting Danny Jacobs, and there was a lot of bad blood in that fight, but Danny Jacobs was happy just boxing him. So, we don't know what happens in their camp. We know we're not there, but Danny Jacobs, he's going to have to become a little bit more aggressive again if he wants to stay among the top of this division. He's definitely has the ability to do it. It just doesn't seem that he has the desire to knock guys out anymore. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. And you're right. He has the power to do it. And we saw him rock Canelo a couple of times. Just jumping back to Canelo, the one thing I was surprised to see, and I agree with you, that he seemed to move around more fluently, but he didn't work the body. I thought that would have been critical for Danny Jacobs, because I knew to beat Danny Jacobs, I knew that Daniel Jacobs was going to move and try to get Canelo to chase him around the ring, which in a sense took place. But Canelo didn't seem to go in as an all-out body attack, something that he's usually does. Do you think that was just a game plan for Danny, or is this a change we saw in Canelo?
No, I just think that Canelo knows how big Danny Jacobs is, and Danny Jacobs is physically big for a middleweight. He's seen what happened with the Golovkin fight, that Danny Jacobs, outside of that early that knockdown, was able to take Triple G's best shots, and Triple G landed a lot harder shots on Jacobs than did Canelo. So Canelo wasn't, going in there, and he wasn't going to, chance that, whether or not being worn down on the inside or, getting caught with something big by standing there trying to trade with him. So I think Canelo fought a smart fight. Why he didn't go to the body a little more, Jacobs was moving a lot, and despite Canelo's improved footwork, that was more or less defensive footwork rather than offensive footwork, cutting off the ring and that, which I still think is one of Canelo's biggest issues. Matter of fact, I believe we discussed that with Oscar. That's on Thursday, where he admitted that.
One last thing I wanted to ask you about that fight was, Daniel Jacobs, the more I've thought about it, and knowing and giving Danny all the credit that we have been over the last several months of his improvement and getting better, the power, the chin, all the things that we've talked about, it seemed like he was happy to be there. You know what I mean? Like when a fighter gets this opportunity, we talked about the money he was getting. We talked about the deal he had, where it was kind of set up and kind of knowing that he wasn't going to come out on top in this fight. But don't worry, kid, you're gonna make a lot of money by signing with us, etc., etc. And the more I analyze the fight after the fact, the more it seems and could be a great explanation of why he didn't seem to go in for the kill, why he didn't seem to think that there was any kind of desperation, that he was, just going along to get to the final bell. It's like he was glad to be there. He was putting up a fight, but he wasn't there to win. What's your thoughts?
Well, even though it didn't happen in this fight, boxing, as we've seen last night, some guys, you see certain guys get the benefit of the doubt, or certain guys under certain promoters get the benefit of the doubt in certain locations so much. It's discouraging where, a guy going into that fight is thinking to himself, okay, you know what? I'm going to get robbed on these cards unless I knock this guy out cold. And some guys you just can't knock out. Canelo has an iron jaw. That's an example. So who knows? And I'm not saying that's the reason why Jacobs lost, but, it very well could be, you go in there discouraged already. And so you're saying to yourself, why am I going to take a chance on myself getting knocked out when I know that most likely I'm not going to knock this guy out, and the only chance I have of actually winning or getting a real fair shake on these cards is to knock this guy out. So yeah, maybe I am just happy to be here to collect that check. Not saying that that's right, not saying that that's what happened, and not saying that there was any scoring controversy in this fight. It's just, I'm sure that has to, when we see that eventually time and again, that has to happen.
All right, let's jump to last night's fights. First and foremost, Jarrett Hurd loses his title to j-roc Williams. Loved the fight, Dax. I mean, I wish every fight was like that. What was your thoughts on the fight?
Julian Williams started out fast. Everybody knows Jarrett Hurd starts out slow. If anything, Julian Williams was going to make sure that he banked those early rounds convincingly. But, yes, it was an all-action fight. Jarrett Hurd, he can't keep taking these punches like that. That's going to shorten his career. And, it's like those power punch, like a John Mugabe, let's say. The first time that chin gets dented, he gets knocked out and becomes an easy target for other lesser fighters. And that can happen to Jarrett Hurd if he doesn't change his style. Julian Williams was in better shape. Jarrett Hurd just did not seem really motivated and up for the fight. Maybe he was hoping that later on he was going to be able to wear Julian Williams down, but Julian Williams just came in better shape, in my opinion, and that's what won him the fight. He was in better shape. He was more motivated. I don't know if Jarrett Hurd overlooked him, saying to himself, if Charlo was able to beat him as easily, I'm better than Charlo, so it shouldn't be that hard for me. I'm not really sure. Of course, I'd like to see a rematch no matter who wins because it was an action-packed fight. Maybe it'd be a different outcome. We'll have to see, but rematch only tell us that. Or maybe just, Julian Williams has Jarrett Hurd's number. Jarrett Hurd, in his last couple fights, has taken a lot of punishment before he gets that knockout.
Yeah, his style.
He may have outgrown the division, Maybe he's really hurting himself getting down to 154.
It could be. I just can't see how he even makes 154. He's humongous in there, and he was way bigger than j-roc. So, but I think you're onto something, Dax. I think that he took Julian Williams lightly. It just seemed like he was going through the motions, and he figured he was going to win this fight. One thing I wanted to ask, Hurd seemed invincible until last night. And I don't mean just by the outcome. I'm talking about the knockdown. Because Williams hurt him several more times during that fight. Do you think that what you just stated about a fighter that gets knocked out, do you think he's going to be more susceptible? Do you think fighters are going to be more willing to land harder shots? Because let's be real. Has he fought a power puncher prior to Julian Williams that can punch as hard as Williams? I mean, he has fought some good fighters, but they're not known for power punches like Lara.
He's not a monster puncher. Let's knockout guy, and that might be the hardest puncher that he's faced to date. So, who knows? And again, we've seen it happen with a lot of guys, whether or not it's a Tommy Morrison or whether or not it was a John Mugabe or whether or not it was David Izon. The list goes on and on of really big punchers that once they're dented, that, Sam Peter is another example, the heavyweight Sam Peter. Once a guy gets dented, once that sweet spot more or less gets exposed, it becomes easier to knock them out. That's just human physics. Has that happened with Jarrett Hurd? I don't think so. I just think that Jarrett Hurd, again, took this fight a little bit lightly, and I think he's having a hard time making that 154 pounds. And when a guy goes in there dehydrated like that, on top of the lack of motivation, of course, they're going to be more susceptible to those punches. And draining weight like that takes a lot out of the body. As any fighter, who even isn't as big as Jarrett Hurd, trying to get into a division so much lower, will tell you that that's only it's hard. He has no fat really to lose, so there's nothing really to burn off on him. It's not like he has excess blubber on him that he's just burning off water weight either.
Well, maybe he shouldn't have went to Vegas last week because he was in Vegas. Maybe that was a sign that he was taking Williams lightly. How about the Matt Korobov fight? I don't know about you, man, but I didn't even think that fight was close. Let alone be changed to a draw. I thought that was a shame. To me, at least it didn't happen with the Hurd-Williams fight, but it happens way too much with PBC fighters. I did not think that Aleem came close to winning that fight. What was your thoughts?
No, I think that at best you could have scored it 7-3. in favor of Korobov. When I heard majority decision, I couldn't believe it. And then when they changed it to a draw, that was even more infuriating. If that was my fighter, I'd have filed a protest. I like Korobov. He's at the tail end of his career. He did a lot better against Charlo than people expected. His only loss prior to that was against Andy Lee. And he was pitching a shutout until Lee came up with that big, huge left hand and won a vacant WBO title. He has a win over former 168-pound champion Jose Uzukadagi. But he's 36 years old. He knows all the tricks. He has underrated power. And last night, what they did to him kind of, sets his career back a little bit. Any chances of him getting another title shot soon. So as for Aleem, really, he didn't do that great into that fight. At no point in time was he able to turn things around and do anything to Korobov that Korobov, was not expecting. I think, Aleem got a gift decision, and maybe he should rematch against Hugo Centeno Jr. because Aleem definitely isn't ready to go in there against any one of the top middleweights in the division. He wouldn't have lasted as long as, he wouldn't have lasted the distance like he did against Korobov last night.
Don't be surprised if you don't see a rematch card. Korobov, Aleem, and then, of course, Hurd, Williams. That seems like something they would do. Manny Pacquiao fighting Keith Thurman. It was announced for July 20th. What's your thoughts, man? Manny Pacquiao, I give him a lot of credit, win, lose, or draw, whatever happens in this fight. At pushing 40 years old, he doesn't have to search and fight a guy like Keith Thurman. I think that whether he wins or not, Pacquiao gets more credit. And then Thurman, should he win, this is a lose-lose fight for Thurman because if he wins, that people are going to criticize him for fighting a washed-up older Manny, even though I don't think he's 100% washed up, but he's certainly not the same Manny Pacquiao of 5-6 years ago.
No, he's not the same Pacquiao 5-6 years ago, but, that's Manny Pacquiao. He'll fight anybody he always has fought anybody, win or lose. As for Thurman, what happened to the Keith Thurman, who's forever calling himself on one time, beating his chest, when you got Terrence Crawford and you have Errol Spence Jr. out there, and at any point in time, you could have made a fight with one of those guys. I don't think Keith Thurman really has that desire to get in there with either one of those guys, and I think that he's hoping that he can get a win over a faded Manny Pacquiao. And you're right, he's not completely faded, but a faded Manny Pacquiao, and that would more or less give him an excuse to be the A side again, where his absence kind of Keith Thurman, who was, looked at as the man of the division, his absence and then his opponent choice when he came back is kind of taken away from his luster. So a win over Manny Pacquiao would allow him to, to set terms against a Crawford or a Errol Spence Jr. But right now, I think Keith Thurman has lowered down, in my book anyway. He's dropped a few notches, not only in his heart and desire to fight the best, but, just how he goes about it. I just don't think he wants to fight the best anymore.
You think he's an elite fighter?
He is an elite fighter if he chooses to fight the best, but, unless you're doing it, you can't remain an elite fighter. Boxing is a what have you done lately sport, and lately Keith Thurman hasn't done much.
No, you're right. And I agree with, what makes an elite fighter an elite fighter. Of course, the skill set is a prereq. You got to have a skill set, so nobody would even be talking about a fighter unless they had the skill set. But then you have to fight the fights, and that's something that Keith Thurman has not done of late. Next week, we got a big heavyweight fight. Tyson Fury going up against Dominic Breazeale. How do you see this fight going, Dax? Wilder is Wilder, and Breazeale is Breazeale. I don't know what else to say. They're both the same age. They're both the same height. Very similar arm reach. How do you see the fight going, and what's your official prediction?
Breazeale gets hit too much, and he gets hit too easily, and he's going down too much, and Wilder hits like a freight train, so I think Wilder's going to knock him out. It's going to have a few good rounds, and Wilder's going to knock him out. It's not really intriguing. I don't believe there's any mystery or surprise there.
Isn't Breazeale kind of the perfect opponent for Wilder? He's stationary. He stands there. He's big. He doesn't keep his hands up a lot. Yes, he takes a punch. Yes, he could deliver a punch, but he doesn't have overwhelming power. This is the type of opponent that Wilder looks great against.
Absolutely, and this is also an opponent where if Wilder can dispatch him quicker than Joshua, it kind of gives Wilder some bragging rights.
I'm not. That whole thing is.
But that's
I know. I know that.
That's how they do it.
I know how that's what he'll. I know that's what he'll say. But you know as well as I, it means nothing. And speaking of Anthony Joshua, he will be fighting Andy Ruiz Jr. We talked a little about that in Vegas. I think it's a very similar opponent than Jarrell Miller, except Jarrell Miller is a cheater. But I don't think anything really should have changed in Anthony Joshua's approach for Ruiz, except, to be honest with you, Dax, I think Ruiz is a better fighter than Jarrell Miller. What's your thoughts?
I do think he's a better fighter than Jarrell Miller. And if you go back and you watch the Parker fight again, you can make a strong case that Andy Ruiz Jr. won that fight. And if it was in any other location, I think Andy Ruiz Jr. would have got the nod. Andy Ruiz Jr., he's busier, he's more talented, he provides more angles, he's in better shape than what he looks, definitely. So, it's going to be a better fight with him against Anthony Joshua than the Jarrell Miller against the Anthony Joshua fight was, in my opinion.
Hey, one last question I got for you, and I gave you the accolades earlier, and you definitely called it when it took place. Vergil Ortiz looked fantastic against a veteran like Mauricio Herrera. Where does he go from here? I mean, he's got this punching power, 13-0 with 13 knockouts now. He seems like he's headed in the right direction. Do you think that the win over Herrera is going to catapult him and maybe rush him a little too much, or is he ready for the big time? What's your overall thoughts of Vergil Ortiz Jr. now that you got to see him live?
I told you I like the kid. He has kind of gotten shut out a little bit with the attention that Teofimo Lopez has and Ryan Garcia, but the kid's definitely exciting. Where does he go next? I think right now they should just kind of sit back, watch the World Boxing Super Series unfold, and then, more or less start picking opponents from that division, to work himself up to, whoever wins that. Definitely, I think maybe like a Jose Sabata or Troy Avansky or somebody else who's already lost in that tournament would be a step for him, and then slowly move himself up. The only thing we don't know about Vergil Ortiz Jr. right now is if he can take a punch. If he can take a punch, and with the way he fights, then that division's in a lot of trouble.
One other thing I had talked earlier, and I know you and I talked about Andre Rozier and Daniel Jacobs, but his fight that, he was in the corner of Saddam Ali when Saddam Ali fought Anthony Young on the undercard of Canelo-Jacobs, and Saddam Ali is not the same fighter. I'm not saying that Saddam Ali was ever a world beater or a pound-for-pound top fighter, but he was a quality fighter, and he just doesn't seem to have it anymore. He was hurt by Anthony Young, and Andre Rozier let him fight, let him continue, and once again, Ali got beat up, and the fight only went 3 rounds. Is he done? Does he too need another trainer? Is Andre Rozier really to blame? I mean, what's your thoughts?
Who knows? All I know is that when I seen him the day of the weigh-in in the casino, sitting next to the slot machine, he didn't look like he was a motivated fighter then. He looked like he was just happy to be there. Actually, he almost gave a vibe where he wasn't too happy to be there. He had, he just absolutely did not seem like he was just into that fight at all. I think maybe he overlooked his opponent too much, thinking that this was going to set him in line for bigger and better things. Instead, it set his career back.
Yeah, no, I saw his team at MGM, and they seem more jacked up than him. You're right. I didn't take it like that. I thought he was just trying to get mentally prepared. One last thing, one more last thing. I've said that 3 times to you, but I had a great time in Vegas doing that in that media row, and I hope that we get to do that again. Now that it's sunk in, and the whole, you and I talked a lot about the concept with what DAZN and Golden Boy and MGM were trying to plan, and I thought it was a great concept. And I think that it could be very successful DAZN is really strutting their stuff right now. I'm not so sure if it's ready for them to, or if it's a little premature. But in the whole nut, as a whole, as the whole picture, so to speak, what's your thoughts?
I thought it was, I thought it was great. We had a great time. It was a great event. You had a lot of media there, and of course, the more media you have there doing things like that, that actually takes a lot of the stress off of the promoter themselves, because now they're allowing everybody else to market for them. And that's going out to all their audiences on top of what they're already marketing. So it was a brilliant strategic plan. It didn't get as many views as you expected the card to get, but you have to see what happens in the future. But again, for the last time, it was a great event, and I think it was done well, and hopefully they do have more of them in the future.
I didn't hear any numbers. What kind of views did they get?
I think it was only about 1.5 million or something like that.
Oh, that's okay. Well, that's pretty good. That's 1.
I think, I'm not sure. I think that was the report.
Well, 1.5 million means that there's 1.5 million at least subscribed to DAZN.
Yeah, but a lot of those people were going on there and getting that 3-month trial.
Oh, well, you got to pay for the first month to get the free month. So at least they got them for 2 months, 1 month at least, But
no, you don't. You go in there, you get your free month first.
Yeah, but they if you without any
you get your free month first, and then they charge you the second month.
Oh, well, then I'm wrong. Hey, that's cool. But in any event,
it's not cool when it's happening. Every fight, every big fight, people are joining just to watch that big fight, and then they're canceling these the subscription. Then they're doing it under another name.
Yeah, well, eventually.
You get a buddy doing it, and everybody just watches on the big screen TV.
Well, they'll get to a point where they don't have to do that, I would think. But
and before we go, what about the news of not only Howard Letterman but Bert Cooper? I was under the impression for some reason I thought Bert Cooper was a lot older than 53 years old.
So did I.
There's a guy we always talk about, boxing and records. Whether the record is the most, can you judge a fighter by his record? Bert Cooper, a guy that gave a lot of exciting fights. He fought a lot of big names. He was a dangerous fighter. His problem was that he, at times, kept 1 foot in the street and 1 foot in the gym. So, he never really reached his potential. He was 1 punch away from upsetting Evander Holyfield, the first guy to ever put Holyfield down. He fought Michael Moore, which was the 1992 and 93 Fight of the Year by KO Magazine. He fought George Foreman. He fought everybody, and I'm surprised there hasn't been, more talk about his passing.
Yeah, it just happened, and there has been a lot of accolades given for both he and Harold Letterman. It's a shame that we lost him. I didn't even realize that Bert Cooper was sick. I wish there was more news about that. But hey, our informed viewers and listeners are telling me that there is no more free trial for DAZN. So they used to do that, but they don't do it anymore. So that means that there's at least 1 million. If there was at least 1 million subscribers. So you and I were in a heavy discussion about that in Vegas and how the model could work, but I guess they're on their way. Hey, how could it not work when if all the big fights are going to be on that network? I just don't like those two bozos, Barack or whatever those two guys are. To me, that's a joke. That ruins it. That makes it more less boxing, in my opinion.
Well, even if I had people telling me that they had gotten the 3 month just to watch that fight, but even so, DAZN, if they want to expect to keep these subscribers, what they're going to have to do is they are going to have to work some way into keeping people into staying with the subscription, because they can join, and let's say they're watching a fight like that or the Anthony Joshua fight for $20. Really, what they just got was a $20 pay-per-view.
Yeah, but you know what the key is, though, is as long as DAZN keeps that up for every month, if they coordinate and schedule a big fight once a month, they're in, because nobody's going to cancel if they're getting their $20, just like you said, if they're getting pay-per-views for $20. But anyway, Dax, appreciate the time, and look forward to next week, brother.
All right, everybody, enjoy the day.
That's my man, Dax Khan. You can check him out up on BillyCBoxing.com. Listen, I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, Alex Papali joins us. Don't go nowheres.
Billy C will be right back.
Have osteoarthritis in one or both knees? If you have osteoarthritis in one or both knees, are you on Medicare, Obamacare, or other health insurance? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knees, covered by Medicare at little to absolutely no cost to you. We also offer a prescription strength topical pain relief ointment that can be used for pain experienced on other areas of your body. Our experienced staff will work with your doctor and handle all of your Medicare or insurance paperwork. Best of all, your prescription is shipped directly to your home for free. Will you qualify for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knee or for a topical pain relief ointment covered by Medicare or private insurance at little or no cost to you?
Find out for free by calling the Back and Knee Pain Center at 1-800-604-1072. That's 1-800-604-1072, 1-800-604-1072.
Medical alarms for people who fall or have medical emergencies. You never think you'll need one until you do. Hi, I'm Lonnie Anderson for Advantage Alert. Today, our advanced systems locate and protect people inside and outside their homes, plus when they're on the road, allowing users with the press of a button to speak with an operator who can summon help. And even after 30 years, Advantage Alert's products remain amazingly affordable.
Call 800-985-1705.
Addiction is an epidemic in America. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, you need to call the R360 Network now.
I'm Ken Seeley, author, addiction recovery specialist, and former addict. R360 is a nationwide network of addiction recovery specialists that I personally selected and recommend.
The call is free, the consultation is free. If you have private insurance, your treatment could be covered with no out-of-pocket cost.
Call 800-705-0023.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell them Billy C sent ya.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C, the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C, damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us. Hey, don't forget about our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week channel, the Billy C Boxing channel. Just go to GinikoUSA.com. That's GINIKO USA.com. Sign up. Watch us on all the major streaming like Roku, etc., etc. It's gotten so big that you need to put a code in there now, and it's Billy C. So joining me right now, straight from Vegas, is my man Alex Papali. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Billy C. How are you?
Hey, you like the new technology? Now you get to see me.
Yeah, look at that.
You know, so it's different. I was seeing it with Dax, and I'm like, what's going on with the camera shots? Now I realize that we can keep them both. So that's pretty cool because I know it's you never get to see me, roll my eyes at things you say and stuff like that. But in any event, let's talk about Canelo-Jacobs post-fight thoughts. You've had a week to think about it and probably get some solid food in your system. But did I say that? I'm sorry. But in any event, hey, I got news for you. For 2 days, I felt queasy. I'm like, I'm going to kill Alex if I caught that. But in any event, Canelo Alvarez, Daniel Jacobs, post-fight thoughts, Alex.
I tell you, I think that it was a good fight. It was a competitive fight, but it was not a thrilling fight. It was certainly not like we saw last night. Last night there were two examples of really engaging, brutal fights. Those were more like what prize fighting you expect from prize fighting. What we got last night, Canelo-Jacobs was far more tactical, but I think what it did do was show us, in that constant thing nowadays that we're always looking for, who's the pound for pound best. It certainly put another feather in Canelo's cap and went a long way in proving that he is probably, I don't know, unless you're somebody who insists that Golovkin got the short end of the stick at least once, I think you saw Canelo really exert his dominance. I thought he was going to have a little bit more difficult time with him. I think the thing that was most amazing to me was how hard Canelo is to hit. He is very elusive. And all this talk about Mexican style, I think the whole thing of, in terms of that, the thing with Canelo is that phrase is turned on its head. Mexican style with Canelo means he can box, and he is slick. He is hard to hit. Watch that fourth round. Danny Jacobs can't touch him. And it's all head movement. He is really impressive in his defensive abilities. He learned so much from fighting Floyd Mayweather, I think, and that loss. And I think that's a great lesson for today's fighters, is that if you get a chance to fight the best, take it. Because even if you lose, you're going to learn a lot, and he certainly has.
I agree with you that he has become, for all intent purposes, a complete fighter. But jumping back, and we'll talk about last night's fights, but jumping back to a fight like last night, in my opinion, and maybe it's just me, the old thought process, the fights like we saw last night, two of them actually, were so action-packed and have you on the edge of your seat. To me, that's the style of boxing that the sport needs to continue to cultivate, diehard fans. I know you don't like the casual fan, Alex, but, the diehard fan. And, like when you watch a fight like Canelo and Jacobs, and it's a tactical fight, and, we see, brilliance from Canelo's game plan and modification. Although there were a lot of rounds that were close, you lean towards Canelo only because it seemed that he landed the harder shots or a couple of more. Daniel Jacobs never changed his game plan, and he should have tried to make that fight a war. Like I said to Dax, it almost seemed like he was just happy to be there.
Yeah, well, I think I think because he realized I gave him the first round, Danny Jacobs, but then Canelo took over. I thought he won it like it was like no more than no more than like an 8-4 type victory. But I think that's the thing is 8 rounds to 4. But the idea that Jacobs won, no. And I think the thing that Canelo does that's so impressive, and this is sort of Mayweather-esque, is he has this really efficient, brutal economy. He doesn't land a hell of a lot of punches and control every second of the round. He lands big, hard, meaningful, showy punches that by the end of the round, you're like, well, the Jacobs had a consistent attack throughout the whole round and like put pressure, but Canelo countered him with such beautiful shots. I think Canelo won the round because his shots were like more meaningful. I think that happened again and again. That's the thing that he's really good at. And I think that could be a knock on him because sometimes it does lead to him being in close fights. And I think that, especially when there's not somebody being hurt. And that was the other thing, was that Danny Jacobs could never hurt Canelo, and we shouldn't have been surprised because, of course, Canelo took Golovkin's best, and Golovkin's a harder puncher than Danny Jacobs.
It's interesting what you said because it seems to me that Canelo knew if it was a close fight, he would get the nod. Like he knew he was going to get the nod. He knew that he knew that Jacobs had to knock him out twice to win the fight. I scored rounds 1, 3, 6, 7, and 9, all for Danny Jacobs. The first round was just a snoozer. It was just that feel-out round. It was pretty boring, but I thought Jacobs landed the more meaningful punches. The fight didn't even really start until the 4th or 5th round, but it ended up being 6 rounds to 5, in my opinion. I've been very critical of Andre Rozier, and I'll add to it like I have already today. He didn't make any adjustments for Daniel Jacobs. Daniel Jacobs stayed with the exact same game plan, like they were winning every round, or they already knew what the outcome was going to be, and they accepted that mentally. That's what it seemed like to me. No one really got hurt. There were no cuts. There was no damage, no rocked. Nobody was really hurt, like rocked. It was a tactical fight that Canelo squeaked out.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I was surprised with is Daniel Jacobs never really had a lot of success on the outside. I thought he would, and it wasn't that Canelo's body punching took that game away. I think it was Canelo's elusiveness and Canelo's head movement, because there were so many times where Danny Jacobs was jabbing for him, but he was missing just from the head movement. So it turned out, and maybe this was the adaptation that Rozier made, and it just never paid off, was they seemed to want to fight Canelo in close more often. And then it got to the point where the best rounds, the most exciting, like bruising rounds, were like the 8th, 9th, and 10th maybe. That was where Jacobs really did seem to his corner. There were a couple times he came back from the corner like, did I win that round? So he did. He was getting concerned, and I think that's where he did mix it up with Canelo, but that didn't pay off. He really couldn't. None of the things that we thought would work for him, his size, his just larger frame, that didn't help in close.
But he didn't use it. He didn't utilize it.
I don't think Canelo let him because there wasn't a lot of clinching. Canelo he's slippery as an eel, and I do think that that's the thing that's surprising. He's really elusive.
That's good. Yeah. I just think that it could have been. I think Danny Jacobs. See, Canelo is the kind of fighter, and when I interviewed Oscar, he said the same thing. He said, we can get Daniel Jacobs to get into a dogfight with us, and that's what we want. So it seemed like they wanted to exchange with Daniel Jacobs. Daniel Jacobs never got into the dogfight, never went in for the kill. And Canelo took what he was given. And, he won a tactical fight. I just think that at some point, Daniel Jacobs should have said to himself, I need to win this fight. I need to do something different. And he never did. And, we don't know if it would have turned out to be a Jarrett Hurd, j-roc Williams type of a fight. But I think it needed to be instituted by Daniel Jacobs. I thought that he needed to be the guy to do that.
Yeah, I think that's what I was sort of, and especially you guys talking to Sugar Ray Leonard, from days of Vegas past. You do imagine those kind of efforts and those kind of comebacks. And we didn't see that from Jacobs because you thought maybe in those 11th or 12th rounds he would just let it all go. But I think that's the skill of Canelo. If you do that, you're going to get knocked out because Canelo's that good. Remember, when guys come at him with abandon, that's when he takes them out. The most aggressive guy who came at him was one of the guys who got most brutalized by him, and that was James Kirkland. So I think that's why guys, even Golovkin, his most banged up fights he ever had were the ones with Canelo, where he, pressed him. So I don't know. I think that could be the major reason why we didn't see Jacobs have a, Angelo Dundee-esque, you're blowing it, son moment, because I think if you do against Canelo, you probably get whacked out.
But if you're going to fight and you're going to win.
What the hell?
No, but what I'm saying is if you're going to the fight to win, at some point during the fight, everything gets tossed out. The game plan gets tossed out. Now you have to make adjustments on the fly. This is where Andre Rozier is failing his fighter, Alex. He doesn't have the adjustments. He maintains the game plan that they came up with in the gym, and he keeps his fighters level-headed. And Saddam Ali almost got killed twice. Doesn't stop the fight. Doesn't make the adjustments for Daniel Jacobs. And at the end of the day, you sit there and I question myself, especially in an 8-hour delay in Philadelphia. I started questioning myself, why would Daniel Jacobs settle for just going in and going through 12 rounds and making it a close fight? Why didn't he go in there to win? He seemed quietly like almost Evander Holyfield-esque when he was strolling down into the meet Mike Tyson. I'll never forget that walk. He had this look of confidence, like he knew something nobody else did, and the rest is history. Daniel Jacobs had that persona. He kind of had that look and that attitude, but never delivered. I was disappointed. Listen, I picked Canelo. Yes, I'll admit I was hoping for a stoppage in the 11th round. It would have been a very profitable day for me. But the truth of the matter is that I was a little disappointed in Danny Jacobs. And quite honestly, I have to blame Rozier. I know I've been on record as saying I think he's a terrible trainer, but I think it really came to light in that fight.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a time for Danny Jacobs to rethink things, maybe going forward. It does sound like what Eddie Hearn has talked about is that he might move up to super middleweight. And I don't know. I think that I hope we get Canelo Golovkin 3 in the fall, but I'm not sure that has been completely finalized.
It's not the same fight anymore.
Yeah, I think I definitely favor Canelo. One, I think Canelo proved. I don't know.
I'd like to see Triple G Jacobs, too.
Really?
Well,
I'd rather see Canelo versus Triple G.
Well, that's because we're all longing for Canelo to win a real fight against Triple G. He hasn't, in my opinion.
I want to see him win a dominant fight.
Right. He didn't win either of those fights on my card. But Triple G is fading. You mentioned about Canelo. Canelo hurt Triple G to the body in both of the fights. And I would have thought that he would have went in with a similar game plan against Daniel Jacobs. Now, Daniel Jacobs can box better than Triple G. I think he's a better boxer. But neither one of them, I'm talking about Canelo and Danny Jacobs, neither one of them imposed their will on each other at the end of the day. That's what I thought.
I think and that was the difference from what we saw last night, is that Canelo Jacobs remained a contest. Whereas last night we saw that line, and that's where prize fighting comes in, that line between like an athletic contest and something not for the squeamish gets blurred. That's the thing about boxing. It's brutal. And what we saw last night, Jarrett Hurd for a while seemed like, wow, this guy has to sort of take an ass kicking before he comes on. It's almost like he's a 15-round fighter. But then as things went on, it was like, no, he's getting his ass kicked. And that we never saw it degenerate into a real fight. Canelo versus Jacobs. It stayed strategic, and I was okay with that because the energy was fun in the hotel room. You know what I mean? That's the thing about our sport, is the nights where it's brilliant is where it does become something more than athletic contest and athletic competition, and both the fights with Golovkin have. And especially after that weigh-in, Daniel Jacobs versus Canelo seemed like this might break into a fight, but it never really did break into a fight. The closest was maybe the 9th, 10th round, 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Yeah, watching a fight, hanging over a bed with a garbage can nearby can definitely cause some issues. But talking about the fight from last night, I loved it. It seems like Jarrett Hurd took Williams lightly. We saw him in Las Vegas. Jarrett Hurd, a week before the fight, and when he's fighting last night, he did his customary, let his opponent get to him in the first couple of rounds, tire him out. But the difference was Williams dropped him. He clearly was hurt. He was shaking, trying to clear the cobwebs out of his head for most of the minute break during the fight. I thought it was interesting when Hurd's corner said, if you don't do something, I'm stopping this fight. You're taking way too many punches. And even the announcing team was like, well, wow, that's kind of strange. Here you got the champion, and as a trainer, you're willing to stop the fight. But then again, that could also show you that a trainer sees there's something wrong with his fighter and is protecting his fighter, something that Rozier did not do and does not do. I'll never forget, you didn't see it because of your seat the night of the fight of Canelo, but when Jacobs got into the ring, Andre Rozier was bouncing around the ring like he was fighting. He was fist pumping the air, and he was waving to the crowd, and he was bouncing off the ropes, like testing the ropes. And I'm saying, what does he think he's fighting? I mean, the guy, he's just terrible, And last night, we saw an action-packed fight, and like I said earlier, if we saw fights like last night, both of them, the Berchant and Vargas fight was just as exciting. You see fights like that, and you're going to see boxing becoming popular pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean that last night was the 50s sort of Gillette Friday night fights type thing.
Definitely
even
good.
Though it was Saturday night. Yeah. And it is amazing. I think it's weird how there is so much boxing on now. Because I knew that the Berchelt Vargas 2 rematch was coming up. I didn't realize it was last night. So we had just finished watching the Fox fights, and then happily I was like, oh, great, this is on last night. I saw somebody on social media mentioned it when I jumped on. So I was able to catch the Berchelt-Vargas fight. And yeah, the same thing that happened last time happened again, but it was thrilling when we get there. He did it easy. Berchelt did it easier this time, quicker this time. But yeah, the j-roc Hurd fight, you got to feel so good for him. That victory, he was thrilled. It was a genuine upset and one of the best fights of the year. And you're right. I do think that, I don't know. I liked that moment. Like you said, there was a lot of complexity in that moment when Hurd's corner said that, because I like when a corner stops a fight because that's what they're there for, to protect their fighter. I think it also worked in that case because, in a way, it was telling Hurd, what the hell's going on? You're losing. And he did sort of get it together after that. Yeah, all credit to j-roc Williams. That really was a feel-good victory. And maybe Jarrett Hurd had a little airplane stomach virus too, because he really did not look himself at all.
The truth of the matter is that when you look at that fight, And, you see j-roc versus Jarrett Hurd, and I like Hurd. But I think the other obvious thing was that j-roc has better boxing skill. He was able to move and pivot on his feet. He worked the body when he had the openings. He worked the head when he had the openings. His counter punches were there. The uppercut, he couldn't miss with that uppercut. And Jarrett Hurd is a plotter. He lets you tire yourself out on him, and then he just opens up by throwing a lot of punches, and eventually some of them land and win. That's what I see in Jarrett Hurd. I don't see a skilled fighter. And Williams, although he's been caught before and has hit the canvas, he's got a loss on his record, which, whatever. But the truth of the matter is that he seemed, like he was better skilled. And last night he was clearly in better shape.
He definitely was. And he had that from the very go, from the first bell, he was pressing the action. And I think that was the thing that Hurd was probably most unexpecting or not expecting, was that he started like in second gear, and Hurd just seemed like trying to play catch up. And when he got hit with that temple shot, what was it, the second or third round, when he had the knockdown, he really never bounced back from that.
No, he was shaking his head in between rounds, and he clearly was out of it still,
Yeah, I mean, credit to him for finishing. That was a learning experience, and I think he did say that was his first time down as a pro.
Yeah.
Because even though the Lara fight was bruising, I don't think he was never down.
No. What about the Korobov fight? Talk about. You didn't watch it? It was a robbery. It was 100% robbery.
Really?
Then they changed it. Typical PBC. First of all, the scores were a robbery. And then they come back later and say, "Oh, we made a mistake. It's actually a draw, not a win for him." And Korobov won the fight. I hate boxing like that. It's like the zone. I love the zone, but I hate those two clowns, Barack and those two guys are terrible. And the thing is boxing's the type of sport that you got to be boxing. It's boxing. There's no let's mix it in with a little bit of entertainment where you have the eye candy. I mean, I've never seen so many women in the sport. Not that I'm against it. It's just like, as long as they're knowledgeable of the sport, I'm okay. But when they're just there, fluttering their eyes and looking good, and they're asking the stupidest questions you've ever heard, I just don't get it. But one last thing, Manny Pacquiao. Signed, sealed, and delivered to fight Keith Thurman in July 20th. It's going to be a pay-per-view. What's your thoughts?
I'm excited. I'm a little surprised that Thurman, I guess, stepped up for this. Even though Manny Pacquiao's best days are far in the rearview mirror, I think he has shown us that there's still some semblance of what he once was. And I think Keith Thurman has been dreadfully inactive. I think he won versus Jose Sutil Lopez in that comeback. Excuse me, but he didn't look sensational. He looked rusty. I don't know. I don't mind that fight. I'm looking forward to it. I don't think that. I don't know. I'd rather see Pacquiao Thurman than Pacquiao Crawford, because Crawford, I think, would take Pacquiao out, and that would
brutally.
Yeah, and I think Thurman hits hard, but I think Pacquiao still can give him lots of angles and is fast enough to dazzle Keith Thurman, and that might be cool to watch. Maybe that's what you guys were talking earlier, because I saw Coach mention. Make a Pacquiao-Archie Moore comparison. That would certainly be if Pacquiao beats Thurman. That would be impressive at this stage of his game, and I think it's doable.
The bottom line, as we go here, the bottom line is, in my opinion, Manny Pacquiao proves that he challenges himself. All the great fighters in the history of the sport of boxing have challenged themselves, or they try to do something outside the box. Try to win. Sugar Ray Robinson trying to win the light heavyweight title. Even Roy Jones Jr. Winning the heavyweight title. I mean, all the great fighters do that. And Manny Pacquiao is proving that he's still up for challenges. A guy pushing 40,
Absolutely.
fighting a Keith Thurman. And this is why, I mean, I hate to bring him up because not only do I hate to bring him up, but I just don't like him. But this is why, at the end of the day, even if Pacquiao should lose against Thurman, I think when it's all said and done, as an all-time great, he's going to fall, at least on my all-time great pound-for-pound list, that he's going to fall higher than Floyd. Because Floyd, when he was Pretty Boy Floyd, if Floyd Mayweather fought the way he fought as Pretty Boy Floyd through his whole career, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Floyd Mayweather would be hands down one of the best fighters ever. But because he took that safety first approach and calculated risk approach and cherry picking approach and picking names after they're well past their prime, how can you compare the two when Manny Pacquiao is going after arguably one of the top 3 welterweights in the world today? And, we'll have more discussion after July 20th. But I like this fight for Pacquiao. I think his hand speed and angles and the susceptibility that Keith Thurman has shown us, getting rocked by Josito Lopez, and the fight before that he was in some serious trouble. I can't see him taking a Manny Pacquiao that is going to be up for this fight.
Yeah, I think Manny. It could happen in the sense that a guy like Manny Pacquiao with so much mileage on him, he could come up those steps and have nothing. But I don't think that's going to happen. Of course, even Sugar Ray Leonard had, the KO loss to Hector Camacho. This is, I think, in a way, this is probably not a bigger challenge. Maybe in some ways I don't know. This is a comparable challenge, but I think Pacquiao beats him. I would say Pacquiao by decision. That's my early pick. The more I'll think about it more as we get closer, but I like that fight for Pacquiao.
Manny Pacquiao wanted me to tell you that he said, I don't know, Alex. I'm going to win by KO. That's what I'm going to do, and start singing again.
He said, imagine all
imagine all the people. Alex, I appreciate it, and we look forward to the next trip together. Maybe we'll spend a little more time, but in any event, thanks a lot, and we'll look forward to you next week, brother.
All right, Billy C, take care.
Thanks. That's Alex Papali giving us his thoughts, and we had a great time in Vegas, and we hope that we do it again soon. So, in any event, I want to give a shout out to my man Johnston, and especially I want to say, hey Louie, what's up, my man? He wanted us to say hi to Louie. That's his son. So, hey, Louie, I'm glad Pops got you into boxing so early on. But hey, remember Emily Harney? She was part of this show for the longest time and took a little hiatus. Well, she's going to be back. We're going to be getting Emily back on the show, and starting next week. So be looking for Emily Harney. She's boxing's best photographer. And we love Emily, and we got to see her out in Vegas, and she said she's got the time, so we're going to take advantage and have Emily join us on Sunday mornings. I got some emails to read. So first and foremost, we got one from Jesse. He says, hey, Billy C., first, best wishes for Sal. We're all supporting him, wishing him positive thoughts throughout his situation. Sal, we're thinking of you. I appreciate that, Jess, and I talk to Sal. I try to every day. And he sounded great this morning, so we're in his corner. Look for Sal to win by a late round TKO. He says, I want to see Canelo against Callum Smith next. If not, then David Lemieux to possibly prepare him for a Triple G trilogy. As far as Jacobs is concerned, I'd like to see him fight Billy Joe Saunders or David Benavidez. I think Daniel Jacobs needs to change his trainer and a Billy Joe Saunders fight would be great. I also think a David Lemieux fight would be great. I don't think David Lemieux deserves a fight with Canelo right now. David Lemieux can't make weight. He's was going to fight at super middleweight in his last fight and got hurt or whatever. He was supposed to be on the card, as a matter of fact, but wasn't. I think David Lemieux needs to rededicate himself back to the sport. As far as Daniel Jacobs against David Benavidez, I like the fight in terms of Jacobs' skill set, and he is a big guy, but Benavidez is a monster. I don't know. I like Billy Joe Saunders against Canelo, or Billy Joe Saunders against Jacobs, or Billy Joe Saunders against Triple G. Bottom line, Billy Joe Saunders against one of those three. He says, Billy, is Virgil Ortiz really take the fight on Dallas, which I believe might be Maurice Hooker in June or late May? He said something about it in Dallas, which is Hooker's hometown. Is he being pushed because of Teofimo Lopez or Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis? Are they all being pushed by promoters and their people? It's funny. If you guys watched the Vegas event that we did, and if not, it's up on YouTube. It's also up on the Billy C. Boxing channel. I think it airs on Saturdays, late Saturday night. It's scheduled to air late Saturday night on the channel. But you can watch it anytime up on YouTube. But I was shocked when I asked Sugar Ray Leonard about that, about fighters, being overprotected, and then they all of a sudden get the big fight. And is it and they lose and they're not ready, and I blame it on the fact that they weren't given an opportunity to improve, and I was shocked at his his answer. He said that he feels that when a young fighter has the ability, that it really doesn't matter. And I was shocked. I even asked him the question again. I worded it differently, and his answer was the same. He said, I know what you're asking me, dummy, basically. But he said it. He's a much nicer guy. And, bottom line is, we'll see what happens. But I don't know. But I got some disagreement with my opinion on the Floyd versus Manny resume in the chat room in YouTube. The truth of the matter is you can't listen. Floyd's a great fighter, and as Pretty Boy Floyd, he was an exciting fighter. But as Floyd Money Mayweather, not so much. And his resume is nowhere near as impressive as Manny Pacquiao. And my man AT said, he beat Canelo in his prime. Well, Canelo was just learning how to fight. Canelo benefited more from that fight. Do you see Floyd talking about fighting anybody like the likes of a Keith Thurman or a Canelo Alvarez or anybody that's in the discussion today? No. You see him maybe having a rematch with McGregor. I would have liked to have seen the rematch with Floyd and Manny. I don't think Floyd can beat Manny right now. I really don't. So whatever. I just hope that Floyd stays retired. That's all. And then let the discussions be maintained. To continue with the emails, Jesse says, my pick is Hurd winning a split decision over Williams. Well, you were wrong about that. He says Burlchant knocking out stopping Vargas. You were right about that. And Navarrete over Dogby, close fight. Well, you were right about who won, but it wasn't close. Navarrete beat the snot out of Dogby. He says also, Billy, you had some great questions for Oscar De La Hoya and Ryan Garcia. You guys did excellent in Vegas. The tough questions, and it was good to mention that Canelo doesn't punch well on the move. Thanks. Well, thank you for noticing that, Jess, and to everybody out there, if you didn't catch our Vegas show, definitely go up on YouTube and watch it. It's I think we kept the camera rolling over 3 hours. It's a lot of thoughts on the fight, some interviews with some great people. I gave a view of the setup. It was pretty cool. This is from my man Henry. Haven't heard from him in a while. He says, hey, Billy C., best fight of the year so far. What do you think? He's referring to Hurd and j-roc Williams. Man, what a great display by Julian Williams. Great inside boxing and a good game plan. I agree with Henry 100%. Julian K-Rock Williams had a great game plan and executed it to the T and was extremely accurate, and the inside fighting won him the fight. Those uppercuts were killing Hurd. They really were. He says Jarrett Hurd had no head movement at all, and it was just target practice. His corner was begging him for head movement, but like I said earlier, Henry, I'm not so sure Jarrett Hurd has the boxing skill set. I think he's got a granite chin, and he's a big, huge guy with power. His opponents get tired on him, and then he goes in for the kill. I don't recall him really displaying anything of the sweet science, but that's just my opinion. He says, why didn't Hurd use his height and reach? He was taking too much punishment. You wonder why. I think that fighters get used to their success. What I mean by that is like Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder is a fighter that wins by knockout. So when he's in trouble, he's always going to go for the knockout. He's always going to hope that he can rely on his power punch. Well, Jarrett Hurd, a similar fighter. This is a guy that, his opponents get worn down on him, and then he goes in for the kill. I just think that he was going to what it comes naturally to him. He says, what's going on at 154? Charlo, now Hurd. As a taller fighter, Hurd was fighting inside is not the way to go. He was at a disadvantage. He needed to be more on the outside, and his corner was awful. So how do you feel about the rematch? Can Hurd regain his belts back, or do you think that Williams has his number? I think he can regain his belts back. I think if he takes the fight... Listen, I have a feeling Jarrett Hurd didn't take this fight serious. I saw him in Vegas. He was having a great time. So I think the rematch might be different. He says, can you touch on the passing of the best heavyweight one of the best heavyweight contenders in Burt Cooper from Philly, and the loss of Harold Letterman, who I will miss very much. I was sad to hear both of them passing back to back. We talked about that earlier on. Thanks for the email, Henry. We were talking about that fight early on, and not the fight, the passing of Burt Cooper and Harold Letterman. Burt Cooper, I almost had him on a fight card of ours one time at the end of his career. Clearly a tough contender, fought for the title several times, came up short. Boxing has lost a great contender. Like Dak said, I too was a little shocked that he was only 53. And Harold Letterman, that's a personal loss for me. He was a great guy, and I got to know him very well, and I was surprised to hear that. So, yeah, boxing lost two good ones for sure. We got another email. This is from my man John, and John says, hey, Billy C., in the run-up to Wilder versus Breazeale, I've watched all of Deontay Wilder's knockouts, and I would like your take on Deontay's power. After he fights Breazeale, we should get another interesting insight into how good Wilder's power is. I personally believe that whilst he's clearly has the knockout power, his power is massively overhyped. I will outline why, and I'd be interested in your view. Point 1, Wilder has portrayed as having a number one quitter hitter. The only opponent who Wilder hit and knocked out with one punch is Artur Spitska, an opponent who previously had been knocked out by Bryant Jennings, a boxer not noted for his power. All the other title defenses he has had, which ended in knockout, Wilder needed an accumulation of punches. Okay, that's an interesting point, but a knockout's a knockout. The thing about Wilder is accumulation of punches. One of my knocks on Wilder is he's not accurate. So if he can accumulate power punches on an opponent and get the stoppage, that's got to be worth something. He says, number 2, Wilder's level of opposition has not been at a level where you could claim he was the most devastating, has the most devastating right hand in the sport. Most of the fighters he's defended his title against are ranked by outside the top 20. Any top 10 heavyweight who's considered to be a puncher should be able to knock out fighters outside the top 20 with ease. This is true. There's only 2 big fights that he had against quality opposition, Luis Ortiz and Tyson Fury. The rest are all bums. Bum squad. Point 3, all of Wilder's opponents who he has defended his titles against have been knocked out quicker by other heavyweights. He says, whilst Wilder clearly doesn't have the knockout power, I don't necessarily believe he punches harder than AJ, Povetkin, or even Klitschko, or Dillian White. All notable punches that has either similar or less power than these fighters. He's saying that Wilder does. I have listed his world title defenses and results below and compared it to Joshua's record and included the results and the world ranking of the opponent to illustrate my points. I've also listed the opponents who have been knocked out quicker by other fighters. I look forward to your thoughts. Tyson Fury, a draw. Luis Ortiz, a 10th round knockout. Thurman was 38. First round knockout. Washington 34, 5th round stoppage. Chris Arreola 39. Hey, I saw Chris Arreola in Vegas. He looked great. I can't wait to see him. Spitzker, I give him credit for knocking out Spitzker. Spitzker was on his way up. And then he shows the opponents for AJ. The biggest impressive knockout for Anthony Joshua to date, aside from Vladimir Klitschko, had to be Alexander Povetkin. And, you got Povetkin, Parker, Klitschko, Dominic Breazeale, all wins for AJ. And the 2 big names on Wilder's record is Ortiz and Tyson Fury. I think all that Tyson Fury has, and this is a great segue. Bottom line, Jonathan, time will tell. Let's see how he does against Breazeale, and I'm going to break down and give my predictions about that fight right now. But in a nutshell, I maintain my opinion of Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder is a power puncher. There's no question about it. He's got power. I mean, does he have Mike Tyson power? A young Mike Tyson? I don't know. But he clearly has punching power. He goes to it whenever he needs to, and it works. So the bottom line is that he's a power puncher. I mean, it's the bottom line. You got to give him credit for that. Now, my knock on him is he doesn't possess anything else. He doesn't have movement. He displayed a really good jab in the first Thurman fight, but I've yet to see a jab come from this guy again. When he gets in trouble, he goes for the knockout. In his fight against Luis Ortiz, he was rocked savagely in that fight. Stayed on his feet. But what did he do? Aimlessly try to connect with Luis Ortiz, and he did, and he won the fight. When he dropped and almost killed Tyson Fury in the last round of their fight, once again, he came from behind. There was no way he won that fight. The 2 rounds in which he knocked down Tyson Fury were the only 2 rounds you can make a case for that he won. Maybe give him one other round. Every other round was won by Tyson Fury. How that fight ended up as a draw is a shame. Deontay Wilder's resume, yeah, I give him credit for Artur Spitzker. I give him credit for Luis Ortiz, and I give him credit for at least stealing a draw from Tyson Fury. But the truth of the matter is this guy has not displayed any kind of boxing skill. Now, let's put him in with Dominic Breazeale, which is next week's fights. That we'll be talking about that next week. Deontay Wilder, he's ranked number 2 in the world by the computer. 6'7", 83-inch reach. He's got 40 wins, 39 coming by knockout. He's got a draw. He's fought 135 rounds in his career, and he's got a 95% knockout ratio. Last fight, which was in December of last year against Tyson Fury, we all know it was a draw. Many of us believe, most people that know the difference between a left hook and a fish hook, thinks Tyson Fury won that fight. His fight against Luis Ortiz was an exciting fight. I give him lots of credit for that. And, his two fights with Stavern, the first one, everyone gave him credit because we thought Stavern was decent. But then we learned not so much. His win over Chris Arreola, listen, you can say what you want if you're a Deontay Wilder fan, but he has not fought anybody. But nonetheless, 40 wins, 39 by knockout. One draw. It's impressive. He steps in the ring with Dominic Breazeale. Both of these guys, by the way, Olympians. I believe they both got bronze medals. Dominic Breazeale, he might have gotten a silver. You know what? Breazeale may have not have gotten a medal. Breazeale is the same height, 6'7". He's got an 1.5 inches shorter reach at 81.5 versus 83. He is ranked number 11 in the world at heavyweight by the computer. He's 20 wins, 18 by knockouts. He's only lost once, in which he was stopped, and that was at the hands of Anthony Joshua. 86% knockout ratio, less than 100 rounds of professional boxing under his belt, 86. He's got some similar opponents as Deontay Wilder, Eric Molina being one of them. He also has a win over Darren Vargas, and Fred Cassie going to be the next big fighter. He also beat Amir Mansour. I believe that was the fight that Mansour was winning, and then all of a sudden, I'm pretty sure that was the fight where Dominic Breazeale landed a shot and caused Amir Mansour to bite through his tongue, right through his tongue, with the defense. He's got some pop, and he's got a great chin. He honestly does not like Wilder. There was an incident with the two camps at a hotel prior to a fight that they were both on the card for. But at the end of the day, as much as I would like to see Dominic Breazeale pull a j-roc Williams, which some people believe can happen, I think that Breazeale is actually tailor-made for Deontay Wilder. Now, don't get me wrong. Deontay Wilder is giving up probably 30 pounds in this fight. And Breazeale, if he can withstand the punching power, he does have better boxing skill. It's just that he's pretty slow, and he's going to have to catch Wilder and catch him with like a power shot that just knocks him out. But I'll be rooting for Breazeale because I'm not too pleased with Deontay Wilder. But I'm officially predicting Deontay Wilder by stoppage. And it's going to set up a fight, and hopefully we will see Anthony Joshua fight Deontay Wilder. But quite honestly, Deontay Wilder is running out of options. Now, keep in mind, Deontay Wilder knocked out Dominic Breazeale in 7 rounds. That was when it was stopped. So I think I agree with Dax that Deontay Wilder is going to be looking to stop Breazeale quicker than 7 rounds. I think Breazeale might know this and be ready for it. Look for a decent fight. And then when it's over, look for Deontay Wilder to tell you that everybody on the planet is ducking him. Overrated fighter. Can't wait for him to get back in the ring with Fury or have the you-know-what's enough to get in the ring with Anthony Joshua. But first, we're going to have to wait to see him fight Dominic Breazeale this upcoming weekend. We will be talking about that fight next time. And speaking of next time, make sure you tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.